everyone, and welcome to the Jeff Bullis Show. Today I have with me Paula Day. Now, Paula comes from Victoria, which is one of the states of Australia, because we're speaking to a lot of people around the world here. I'm in Sydney, which is north of Victoria. So Victoria, Melbourne, beautiful city, but I did leave it to go to Sydney because I think Sydney's better, frankly. But anyway, that's another story. So Paula is a highly skilled business expert and trust advisor with wealth of experience. And she with 20 years in the field. She spent 18 years working large-scale infrastructure projects in advisory roles for senior leaders, CEOs, and government officials. She has a wealth of knowledge to draw from. She holds a bachelor's degree in business accounting and CPA certification. She quickly rose to the top of the corporate ladder and master skills into successful large-scale operations, and the last few years has struck out into business coaching. And she is a master NLP practitioner, hypnotherapist, social media expert, and personal stylist, and bring a unique and holistic approach to a coaching consulting business. So also Paula specializes in the beauty industry, and we're going to have a chat about that because it's really good to niche down. They say the riches are in the niches, and we'll have a chat about that. So Paula, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
So Paula, you did a degree in accounting, which I started. I did 1 year of an accounting degree, and so did my brother, but he stuck at it, and I left and did another degree. So, what made you go and do an accounting degree? Do you like numbers, attention to detail? What led you to accounting?
What led me to accounting was both my parents are accountants. It was like it just came easy to me. It came so easy to me. And even as a kid, for fun, I would add stuff up. Like I would get the catalogs from the letterbox, and I would actually add up all the things in the catalog for fun and then double check it.
Right. Yeah, I love the double checking. Like, did you ever think about becoming an auditor?
No, I wasn't that keen on auditing and tax when I went to uni. Those are the two subjects. I did them. I did okay in them, but I just was like, I don't want to do this long term.
Okay. I sort of get that because my brother became an accountant and still is one today. And quietly, he hates it now. Well, it's adding up numbers for 40 years certainly can be a little bit daunting and overwhelming. But yeah, I remember he was my accountant for a while when I had a business, one of the businesses I had, and he would be looking for that last dollar that didn't quite balance on the balance sheet. I remember that. It's like,
yeah,
I'm going, it really doesn't matter.
No, it's got to balance completely.
Yeah, so I'm not an attention to detail guy. That would just make my eyes bleed and my ears, burn. So hats off to you because we need good accountants. So and I hire a bookkeeper and a tax accountant because I hate doing it, and they are worth their weight in gold. So if you don't have a good bookkeeper, guys who are listening to the show, get one today, right? So
absolutely,
it'll make you a lot happier.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so rabbit hole number one, accounting. All right, so let's move on. So you were in the corporate, you did your degree, climbed the corporate ladder, did really well, did a lot of training, helped a lot of people. What made you get into, business coaching? What was the inspiration for that? What was the call to do that?
So the call first wasn't actually into coaching. I was just at that point where I had always envisaged myself being in that corner office overlooking the city. I didn't care what city it was, but having a corner office overlooking a city with a team of people and an amazing job. And I looked out one day and I'm like, I've got it. I'm there. Like I've got this gorgeous view. I've got this amazing team that I work with, and I've got this picture on my desk with 3 little kids that I just don't see, right?
Yep.
And I was looking at, if I step up in this career anymore, I'll never see them.
Right.
So I'm sort of stuck. I either just stay at this level where I get to see them a little bit, but still I need to do a lot around that, or I progress the career even further, which, you've got this drive. You don't want to stay stuck in your career forever. So I was looking for something, and I was listening to a podcast and getting an idea, and I was listening to a podcast probably similar to your podcast, right? And someone came on and they were being interviewed, and it was an American podcast, but it was an Aussie being interviewed. So I'm already relating to them. And they started a T-shirt business. I don't think I told you this before, Jeff, but yeah. I just followed the podcast. I hired myself a coach and I started a T-shirt business. Now, within the first 3 months, my T-shirts were on the top 10 pages of Amazon, just through following steps. I couldn't believe it because I'm not a designer. I don't have any kind of design. It was just some really silly slogans on a T-shirt.
I was going to ask that. I've heard of that, Mrs. Model. It's like, here's all the right slogans to use and you'll sell a lot of T-shirts. Is that correct?
It was like that. And I was just chasing the trends, and I learned how to put the slogans on the T-shirts through, I taught myself Photoshop, and I did all the things. And so I thought, this business is working. And in fact, I was making more money in my sleep than I was in my day job very, very quickly. And I thought, well, I'm going to jump into T-shirt business. This is going to be the thing. And that was my original thought. But what happened was I had a marriage breakdown, and I didn't expect it. And as part of that, I lost the business and I wasn't able to get it back. And I did a very silly thing, is put the business in his name. And if there's anyone out there and you are running a business and you've got it in someone else's name, I highly encourage you to now change it to your name, because it will be a sticking point. But that was gone. And, for 7 months, I tried to get it back, and I tried to get different avenues into the T-shirt business again. And then I just let it go. I was just done.
Right.
So I was looking for something else. I was like, right, I'm back to square one. And everyone around me is like, don't worry, you've got a good job, just stick here, stay here. It's all good. You can stick this out till retirement type of thing. But I couldn't. So I was looking for, what skills do I have? Well, I've got leadership skills, and I've got coaching skills, and I've got accounting skills. And what have I done for the past, how many years? I've just done business planning and budgets and costing, and helped businesses grow, and helped, lead teams and downsize teams and upsize teams and all the different things. So I took that and I went out on my own as a business coach and consultant.
Right. So you sort of took your experience and expertise and said this, and you obviously sound like you enjoy it. And,
I love it.
Yeah, and you're good at it. So let me ask a question about the T-shirt business, which I'm sure there's fair bit of pain still left over from that. So we're already given a business tip. Don't put a business in someone else's name, and then don't get divorced. Okay, that's 2 tips.
2 tips.
Or get divorced, but have it in your name. So that's the other tip. So was that a side hustle? In other words, did you start the T-shirt business as a side hustle on Amazon?
I did. Yeah, I did. I started as a side business on Amazon. As I said, I listened to that podcast a number of times, and I just followed the steps. And I hired a coach who had done it before. I found someone who'd done a similar business. Mm-hmm. She hadn't done that exact same business, but she'd done a similar business, so that at least I had someone I could bounce ideas off with. Yep. and grow it. So, and that grew pretty fast.
Cool. Well, that's the other thing too about that is, it sounds to me like it was quite scalable. In other words, you didn't have to show up to sell a T-shirt. It just sold online. Yeah,
exactly. And when I finished up with it, I already had, which was a sad thing, I had people working for me. So I had, I think, 4 designers designing at the time. and they were submitting like 10 designs a day to me. And we were just uploading and uploading and uploading. And at that point, it's just like, it's random. You could get one T-shirt that does really well, and you could get like 30 that don't. But that one, you're looking for that one that does well, and you just keep on going.
Cool. Can we dive a little bit more into that? Because I think a lot of people are interested about starting side hustles, which is obviously you have the business skills to do it. So are you happy to have a chat about that? Is that good?
Yeah, I'm happy to have a chat about that.
Okay,
yeah.
Right. So what's great about a side hustle is that it's basically quite a low risk activity in the sense that you don't have to give up your day job. Obviously you had a very well paid day job, a great career. And you're going, okay, I'll do something that and you said makes money in my sleep, right?
Yeah.
So take us a little bit through the steps. I get you inspired by a podcast. They map out that using, the latest slogans that are catchy and trending. Tell us a little bit about that. So the slogans were catchy and trending. Tell us a little bit about that sort of, that's the sort of like kernel of it, isn't it? And then you've got to worry about production. But let's go to about that. So what sort of slogans were they and what were the trends you were writing?
So there were some really daggy sort of slogans like, I'm not retired, I'm a professional dog mama, or something like that. Like some of my best, some of my best T-shirts was just the daggiest slogans. And it was really me, first time in Photoshop, getting the words across the T-shirt. So some of them didn't even look fantastic. And sometimes the better designed ones by the designers didn't do as well as the easy just text on a T-shirt. So it really depends on, who's looking for what at that point. And people buy these T-shirts for their family and friends as funny jokes, or they have the whole family in them. Had slogans like, I'm the oldest sister or something like that. So I'm the sensible one or something like that. And I'm the middle sister, I'm this, and I'm the youngest, I don't have any responsibilities. So things like that. So people would buy the sets as well. And it really was just a looking at what's trending on Amazon, what are people looking for, and just being one step ahead. And to do that, I ended up purchasing some really, getting into a community of people. So I think, getting into a community of people who are doing the same thing as you is really important. I was the only girl in there. So I was the only female in this T-shirt community when I joined. Right. So I found that really odd. And people from all over the world were in there, and they had this trending software where you could actually look at what was trending on Amazon through their software. So, I subscribed to their software and I could see what was trending, but also what up and coming trends were happening, what's happening in the economy, or what's happening in, society that's going to spark interest that people might want to wear on a T-shirt. And so just being one step ahead as well.
Right. So what's the best T-shirt slogan you ever sold? Can you remember?
I think it was, and they're everywhere now. Funcool, like fun uncle, and it had like it. If you look it up online, you'll see this. It's everywhere. But that was one of the biggest sellers, and another one that was just, I think it was just the I'm not retired, I'm a professional grandmother, like that. And it was just text, both of them just text. And I had some really beautiful designs. The beautiful designs didn't do as well as just the text ones.
I remember a slogan that came across me. It said like, it's to do with getting older, like I don't act my age because I've never been this old before, or something like that, right? So, but it's... So you come up with the trends, society's trends, slogans, then you got to produce them, right?
Well, yeah, see, that's the thing. So I ended up getting into this T-shirt community, and Amazon has this amazing platform at that time. I don't know if they have the platform now because it got, I don't know if it's closed down, but it was very hard to get into at the start. So I just applied for the ability to sell on Amazon. And what that meant is Amazon actually fulfilled all orders, looked after all customer service. And so all I was doing is taking a royalty, which is something that all you need to do is upload. So you really just focused on getting your designs uploaded and getting the description SEO friendly.
Wow. So the other thing too, then obviously Amazon was also producing the T-shirts for you.
Amazon produces, prints, delivers, customer service. There is nothing. You just decide on your cut, and you add that to the price. That's it.
Right. Okay.
So easy. Later on, I extended it into grabbing all those designs and popping it onto all of the other T-shirt platforms. There's lots of different T-shirt platforms, and I still have a presence on some of them, but right. Teespring and Redbubble, and there's lots of different ways that you can sell. Etsy.
Right. Yeah, and that's very, very cool, because I have another, we've got a newsletter business which is called Side Hustle Strategies, which is about all the different types of things you can run as a side hustle, how you can start. Very much a digital focus. In other words, something you can do from anywhere in the world, which you could have done, with the T-shirt business, obviously.
Yeah.
So, all right. So enough about T-shirts. Let's get on to Paula Day, the business coach. And so you left that, got into business coaching, and you really then decided to just be a business coach to any type of business, didn't you, originally? So
yeah. So originally, I had all different businesses that I was coaching, which I was very used to because I'd worked with lots of different businesses and lots of different managers and lots of different directors and over my time. And so it kind of didn't matter what was thrown at me. I'd done so many business plans. Like I was just joking with a colleague the other day that we would do business planning for 9 months of the year. So I know how to do a business plan so quick. I know how to forecast and do all the costings and get you understanding all of your figures and stuff like that. But also I knew how to grow a business, and I knew how to lead a team, and I knew how to bring that together to go, okay, well, look, let's get these systems and processes in place. I knew how to scale up and I knew how to scale down. And so I could utilize that across all different industries. But at the same time, by doing that, it's hard to replicate what you're doing when it's a lot of different industries. So we were speaking about this before. When you have a really clear niche, like when you actually are focused on one type of business or one type of person, really one type of person, then you can serve them to a better ability, because you've got the time to go, okay, well, look, they all experience this. They all are generally looking for this, and you can focus your services around that, which is really good.
In other words, you really understand their problems intimately because you're just focused on that niche.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's the old cliche, the riches and the niches, and I've seen it time and time again. The challenge I have, because I'm interested in so many things, that I just, get easily distracted, but that's Jeff, right? So anyway, we just have some fun. But anyway, that's another story. So you chose a niche, which is the beauty industry. Mm-hmm. Why did you choose that? Because it looked like fun?
I love this question. So, it did look like fun. Like, I think personally, I actually love beauty business owners, and I think they are a lot of fun. So that is one of the ticks that I was looking for. But if I go deeper and I might say some things that might ruffle a few feathers here, but it was a calculated decision as well. I was well thought out. I could have gone into any industry, but not every industry readily accepts, as much as I would love it to, a woman as a coach or as a consultant. Some businesses generally are looking for a man, and sometimes it's a certain type of man as well. So I wish life was fair and equal, but it's not. So I need to, when I built my business, I built it in a way that I was considering all of those aspects of, this is me, this is how I look, this is how I this is my skill set, who can I serve, and also who also would accept me as well. And like, I love beauty. Like if I was just in my own space, just doing my own thing, and I'm usually looking at beauty stuff or I'm looking at fashion. And that's just something that I love to do personally. But my experience is not in manufacturing or anything like that. So the fashion industry really isn't something that I would go into, but the service industry would be.
Yeah.
And beauty service, yeah.
Okay. So in other words, the doors are much more open and accepting to a woman in the beauty industry, which makes total sense. So if I went and did business coaching to a beauty salon, I would struggle, I think.
Well, I don't know.
Okay, so the thing about what you're doing is a lot of coaching, which is, how do you scale that? In other words, with the Amazon business, that was scalable.
Yes.
So with coaching, typically, traditionally, and you're trading time for money because you're getting paid by the hour. Is that part of the challenge you have in your business today, or have you got a way of escaping that trading time for money?
Yeah, so I've set my business up in a way. Now, this is the traditional coaching. Like when people see coaching, and especially when they're starting out, they'll see you trading your time again to do coaching or business consulting. Yep. And then, your customers getting your time, your expertise, and sometimes some of the best expertise that they could only afford at that sort of top level, which is great, fantastic. But to be able to scale your business, like I've set up different things in the background. So I have online programs that are just constantly being sold into. So I could wake up in the morning and someone could have bought my products online, and I'll see that money in my account. So I've set up systems and processes in the background to sell into programs that I've already written, already got up there, evergreen, that people can come into. So those things are all happening in the background. Yep. Plus, I have programs that I take people through. So as well as working one-on-one, and that's a higher fee to work with me one-on-one, but also group programs, and that's how you're going to scale your business. So either having group programs or evergreen, or products like think of, what are some of the things that you can productize in your business. Like if you're a coach who's more like doing meditations and things like that, you might productize the meditation. Yep. Like you might have I have, cash flow, I have budgets, I have things that people can purchase, and, it's pretty much done for them with some instructions, so that, if they don't want to pay for the service to work with me, at least they've got something that they can work with. Right.
In other words, you've got a one-to-many sort of face-to-face coaching program, and also you've got digital products that can be scalable and bought by anyone around the world. Yes. So do you have many clients or people that purchase those digital online training products from outside Australia?
Yes, I do.
Right.
I do. Even though I primarily focus on the Aussie market, I do have clients. It's been pretty much all over the world.
Right.
And that's been right from the start. So it's amazing what the reach is now, and how lucky we are to have this internet that actually, on all the social platforms, you can cross to anyone, and it's instant. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. So when people buy these online training programs, do they get a free T-shirt?
No. Although it's so funny, because I think it's Russell Brunson says put a T-shirt in with everything, and I'm like, oh, okay. No, I haven't done that.
Yeah. Anyway, it was just a wild idea. Don't worry about it. Okay. The next question I'm intrigued by is what was I going to say? So you got the business. What is the biggest challenge for most businesses is, how do I get customers? Okay. So number one, you got to get a lead first. In other words, you got to. So is it through, do you rank high on search engines for beauty salon business coaching, a whole range of terms around that. Do you use email? Do you use digital ads? How do you get leads and sales? What's your process there?
So I suppose, for anyone starting out, like the easiest way to do it from the very beginning is to know exactly who you are serving, not like the business, not what you provide, not what you do, like who that person is that you are serving to a deep level. Because then once you know who you're serving, whether you're selling a product or a service like what I am, you know what they need. You know what they're looking for, and also you know where to find them, because it's easier to know who you're serving. So first of all, knowing who I serve really helps me. All my marketing is all organic at the moment. I have dabbled in a little bit of ads, and I may again do that from time to time, but mostly it has been organic, which is just through my social media platforms. So Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I don't have, like, I used to do Google ads on the T-shirt business, but I haven't done it here. I haven't done Google search or anything like that here.
Right.
Email list. So developing your own email list. I think that's really important, because, if all the social platforms go down, you've got your email list that you can still contact people. And if they're on it, they're staying on it, then they obviously want to hear from you. So that's important to build that up as well.
Yeah. And excuse me. I had a look at your site, and so what was cool, and you've got a free ebook there, haven't you?
I do. Yes.
So, and that a good free ebook is always a good lead gen, isn't it? Really,
it is. Yeah. So any kind of it has to be a good one, right? That's the thing. Like I put a lot of effort into writing that money playbook, and I put some amazing strategies in it. And when my coach read it, because she said to me, I want you to write a new ebook. And I'm like, I've written plenty of books, and she's like, no, I want it to be your best. I want it to be amazing. When she read it, she's like, I couldn't put it down. And, my coach isn't cheap to come by. Like, for her to stop everything and look at it was a big deal. And for her to tell me that. And so when you're putting something like that together, if you are looking for a lead magnet to be able to, it's a great way to grow your email list, because, people have to get their email over. People these days are not going to give their email over for anything, though.
No.
Because that, their inbox is full. Their inbox is full of just so many different things. So they don't want to sign up to any more programs and have another email unless it's actually very valuable to them and they really want it. So think about, like, when you're putting out a book or a lead magnet in some way, that it has to be something that people really want and will give that email for. That's why I wrote that. So it's just chockers full of, like, some really great strategies that people can actually implement straight away to make more money in their business, and also to save time in their business too.
Right. So is that one of your best organic lead generators, the ebook?
It is. It is. Cool. Yeah.
Okay, so lead generation done with the ebook. How do you close the sale? Okay, what's your best method of closing, someone who wants to take you on as their either one-to-one or one-to-many workshops?
Yeah.
Once you got the lead, what's the lead nurturing to lead to sale?
Yeah. So this is really important, because a lot of people just sort of go straight to, okay, they've got my lead magnet, or they've gotten an email from me, work with me. And that's not the case, right? Like, it's like you've got to get to know your audience and get to know whether they want to work with you, if they are a good prospect for you, if you can actually help them or not, and get to know them on that deeper basis. So what I do personally is I move them all into, I try to move them all into my Facebook group. And in that group, they can get to know me more. And from those trainings in the group, or from the messages in the group, we start to get to know each other, and we start to chat and see if this is a right fit for them. So then they can reach out and say, Paula, yep, I want to work with you, or no, I don't want to work with you, and we'll get on a call and have that conversation.
Right. So the next thing I'm curious about is with the rise of Zoom and other online video platforms, is that coaching can be very much done virtually rather than actually in real life. And as we all know, that getting in a car and driving to somewhere in a big city takes a lot of time. How's like the rise of Zoom and even the pandemic, how did that impact your business and how you worked?
Yeah, my business actually took off in the pandemic. That was the point where I actually went, oh my gosh, and that was the point where I actually left the corporate space, because my business took off, so much so because, yeah, I could do coaching from anywhere. I could do it over Zoom, and it was easy, and people were looking for help as well, and they were looking for support and the community to help them do it as well. So at that point, so my business was taking off while people were struggling. And I have a new partner. So at that point, we had just been together. We had to move in very quickly because of the whole lockdown here. And he had 2 kids. I've got 3. So we had 5 kids that I was homeschooling at the time. I was running my busy corporate job, and my business was growing. And I had 1 team member at that point helping me. And my partner had he's an electrician, but he got a contract at a hospital where they had to redo all the hospitals. So he was working out of the house. I was in the house with all these kids, people everywhere doing their homework, and me trying to do these 2 things. And when it finally took off, my accountant brain is accountants are renowned for being very conservative. And so I was very conservative in the amount of money that I needed to make before I left the corporate world, and how many clients I needed to have, and what kind of monthly recurring income I wanted to see. And so it had reached that point, and I still didn't hand in the resignation, and it was going bigger and bigger. And I just thought, finally, I let go of the job and leapt into this, and it's been amazing.
Yeah. And that's what's good about a digital world, is that you can do a lot of this remotely, and
yes.
Which didn't exist really 10, 15 years ago. Like, it just, people's acceptance of using Zoom or Skype was around, but a bit flaky. So what have been some of the biggest, so obviously you're starting to grow. So what are some of the challenges you had along the way that you think people need to keep on lookout for, especially as a business coach or coach, because coaches have a similar sort of challenges. What are some of the big challenges you've struck? And I'm sure one of them is going to be time management. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, right? When I went out on my own, I thought, I've got to know all about business and all about time management. And, I was such a time blocker, like just time block things. And I'd listen to all the advice. And I read a whole heap more business books. And by the end of it, I was ready to throw some of those business books, because no one in those business books accounted for the fact that I had 5 kids at home. Like, it was unprecedented times, at home, homeschooling. They couldn't remember their passwords. I had to remember all of this stuff. And, and the fact that I had to run this business differently for me, or I was going to burn out.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to run it in such a masculine way, which is the only way I knew how to work. But my whole being was screaming for something else.
Right.
And so I had to shift, and I had to believe in myself and trust myself that I could do it a different way, and that would work. And so I had to rearrange things around me, and I'm not scared to rearrange things around me all the time now, which is really great. So at the start, I was thinking I have to follow exactly what all of these coaches are telling me. And my coach at the time, I got a new coach to help me, and he was such a masculine coach. He was like the coach who said, get up early, have the cold shower, do the do your meditation, do your exercise, work out hard, and then get into it and do this and this and this and this. And I was going to burn myself out.
Yeah.
I tried it for a bit and it just wasn't working. And I saw so many coaches get their businesses to, 6 and 7 figures and then burn out.
Yep.
Like completely, they were there and all of a sudden their business is gone. And I saw them coming in and out. And it was just this constant burnout. So just to be aware that you can run your business in a different way, and you have to look at what your life is and what's going on for you, your season of life. Like for me, I don't have young kids anymore, but there was a time where I did put processes around bath time. Okay, they're going to be in the bath. I have to sit here and watch them. So I put a 10-minute task that I can do on my phone while they're having to play in the bath. Or when I was going into work, and, getting to work, I knew that, okay, I had a 45-minute train ride on the way in. And on that 45-minute train ride, okay, I'm going to write some content, or I'm going to do this. So I had little tasks that I did that fit into the little time slots that I had. But as the business grew, I enlisted help from all different places. So don't just see that you might need another team member. A lot of people come to me and say, I think I need to grow the team. But sometimes you actually just need to rearrange the things that you're doing or what you're doing, or ask for some help in your family life too. A lot of women, like especially, think that they've got to do everything around the home. And definitely that's how I felt when I'm not a good mom if I'm not making all the lunch boxes. I mean, Isla's 10, she's in grade 5. She went off today and she's going on an excursion. I got her in the car and I said, what's in your lunch box? And she said, well, I've got 2 Madeleines, which are cakes. That's my lunch. Then I've got 2 chocolate biscuits. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I've got 2 mandarins. And I'm like, so you don't have a lunch? And she's like, no, the cake is the lunch, Mum. I'm like, you know what? Just let it go. Let it go. A lot of mums would be on that, still making the lunch boxes or still doing all the things. I don't. We enlist the help from the kids. They know if I grow this business, that if Johnny's got a different business that he's doing, if we do these projects, it benefits us all. And so we all are in its team family.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's like I haven't had to confront 5 kids in a house to do business. In fact, I'm essentially an empty nester. So it's fabulous. So I do have a cold shower. I do meditate.
But it'll put you into it like a really masculine state, which is great for your energy, right? Because you're a guy. And for a lot of women, we're taught to do it in a very masculine way. Do this, and put yourself into this masculine state. But actually, sometimes we need to do things a little bit differently to tap into our feminine, and it flows easier. Yeah. So I know that I need regular breaks. I know I need to get into nature. I know that I can't start too early. I know that I need to journal and meditate before I do anything. I need to control that mind before it takes control of my day. Knowing yourself and just making a decision that you are going to build what you're set out to build. There's no question about it. You've made the decision that you're going to go there, but you're going to do it in a way that works for you. You're not going to burn out. Your family's not going to hate you. All of those things.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, for me, exercise is very important. I've had the habit since I was 12. And so I was a runner. Now I'm a cyclist. I'm ramping up my kettlebell swings now. I go for a walk down to the beach and go for a dip in the ocean, even if it's May, June. I need nature as well. So for me, life is much more than just making an extra dollar because I'm manic, right? So I totally get. Now I meditate 5 days a week. I do a lot of reading because I'm in the knowledge industry. So, and I just love reading, take a lot of notes. I love writing. So yeah, you've got to design a life that works for you. And that's really important because we're told to live life a certain way, which one society tells us, your parents tell you, your friends tell you, your gender tells you, or your coaches tell you. So it's like, fuck off. I'm actually going to design a life that works for me.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So well done. That's really cool. You say, well, I actually need to do it for me. And I think that's really important. And don't sweat the small stuff by the sounds of it.
No, don't sweat the small stuff. Like so many times I hear people getting all worried about, and they about how their kids are doing something, or their kids didn't do this, or they weren't there for, like, just don't sweat the small stuff. Like, involve them in the conversations, but let them be their own person as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think helicopter parents are dangerous because the kids don't learn initiative or resilience quite often.
Yeah. I don't remember my parents being very, hands-on or anything like that. They just taught me to be very independent very early on. And I turned out okay. So, I don't know what all of this, I have been there, and I have been at that point where I've thought that I've had to do everything and had to be the best mom and have all the things on the calendar and all of that. But when it comes down to it, if you're going to run a business, you've got to make a few decisions, and some things that you have to let go. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So and especially for women being mums, they're born to nurture, and it's just built into the DNA, and it's something that a guy won't get. He observes it and sees it, but doesn't really get it, in the sense that this is what mums do and this is what they're wired to do. And so for mum to let a bit of that go, it doesn't mean you abandon your children, of course, but
no.
It just means that you've got to balance. You've got to look after yourself a bit more. And I know my sister has been struggling with looking after herself rather than being the victim not the victim, but at the mercy of the entire family. And I sort of said to her, well, look, you're really going to look after yourself, right? So otherwise you're not going to be able to look after anyone. That's
it's so true. And so many women get into this point where they feel guilty if they're just taking some time for themselves, or spending money on themselves, or any of those things. And the guilt is just put on yourself. Like, when you think about it, no one else is judging you. No one else is actually saying those things. Like, you're assuming the guilt. And so just to recognize that, I remember working on guilt and letting it go, and just recognizing that it was just me. It was me putting that on myself, and no one else was.
Yeah. And that's an important learning, is that don't beat yourself up. But you've got to love yourself just like you love your children, but you've got to love yourself too, and that's important. Otherwise, it's going to be a spiral into the guilt trap, really, I suppose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Do, look after yourself. Love yourself, and then there's more of you to give. There's just you feel better about yourself. Exactly. Like, I get up in the morning, and I get the kids up. My kids are a bit older now, okay? So the youngest is 10, the eldest is about to turn 18. But then I head off to the gym while they're getting ready. I don't need to be here while they're getting ready. It's actually a hindrance if I am here watching them, because I'm going to be like, can you do this? Can you do that? So I want to get out of it. I'll go to the gym, I come back, and I'm there ready to drive the youngest to school, because she still needs to be dropped off. But that's it. Like, so looking at removing the guilt and going, okay, what can I do for myself? And if your kids are still young, what can you do for yourself? Can you get some time to yourself in your day that you can just do something that you love to do, even if it's just go for a walk on your own with no headphones, just to connect, or have a coffee, or just something that's just for you. Yeah,
it's fantastic. You've already given quite a lot of tips, but what else would you say to working mums, or mums that are running their own business? What are some of the other top tips you've learned along the way to manage chaos and look after yourself?
Yeah. It really is to focus on have a good look at yourself and know what your strengths are. And, you know, often in the workplace, I don't know if you've ever been in a workplace, but definitely early days in the workplace, I think a lot of people have been in this, where they focus on your weaknesses and they're like, well, get your weaknesses better. No, in your own business, if you are running your own business, the best way to do it is to look at, okay, well, what are you good at? Who are you serving? Are you good at that? What are the things that you're strong at? And what are you not so strong at? And those things that you're not so strong at, you know, can you delegate those, or could you automate it, or could you do it in a different way? Like you know, I'm not the best at doing all the housework and stuff like that. I like it clean, but I'm probably not the best at it. I don't like, I've had this whole ongoing thing of asking like just about every person I meet on how to clean a shower, like perfectly. I don't know how to do it. So I outsource that stuff, right? Because someone else can do it a whole lot better than I can and a whole lot quicker than I can. And I can focus on my business. Like there are certain things in my business that I know I'm not good at. Like I know I'm not good at the graphics. Like even though I ran a t-shirt business, I know that I'm not good at the graphics. So I've got a team member who I can call on who is good at that. You know, so just looking at what you can outsource, and it doesn't have to be a permanent team member in your business. It might be someone who's just on Fiverr or on Upwork or something like that, just something that you outsource just for that particular time. Or if you're coming up to a deadline and you've got all of these things to do, think about, you know, what you want to focus on and what you're good at and what you can get through, and like what other skills could you outsource? Could you get someone to help you with, or what would you just need to just leave to the side? You don't even need to do it. So having a look at the things in different ways, I suppose, from different angles to make sure that you are focused and just clear and focused on what needs to be done and what you should be doing.
Yeah. In other words, get very clear on what you're good at and then work out priorities as well.
Absolutely.
And then work out where you can outsource it.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And don't like think business and also think home life, because, you know, if you are a mom and you've got kids or you're in, you know, whatever stages, if you decide to do some elaborate dinner every single night, then that's time that you're taking away from your business. If you decide to do an easier dinner, or outsource the dinner, or get the kids to help with the dinner, like just little things like that. Or in the business, you know, if you're terrible at, you know, in Canva, if you're pretty average at that, like I can do it. I'm just pretty average at it, right? You know, I've had to really train myself to do it. But put me in a spreadsheet, or, you know, put me on a phone call to a client having to deal with some kind of limitation, fine. So just looking at what's your strengths and outsourcing or automating or doing things differently.
Yeah. Excuse me. I've had a cleaner for about 12 years, I think now, it might even be longer. And same cleaner, she's great. Rely on her every week. It used to be fortnightly, but weekly now. And she even does the ironing. I can't remember the last time I've actually ironed one of my black or white t-shirts, really. So, and the other thing too is, like, for fashion, I love fashion. So when I go out, I dress up a bit. And if you go to Italy or France, or, you know, the Marais district in Paris, you'll get redefined in terms of your fashion, which is great. But at home, I keep the fashion simple. Because I don't want to have to think I don't want to waste cognitive resources on what I'm going to wear when no one's seeing me. So, and I'm a bloke, right?
Yeah. But I mean, it's important to not waste waste the brain space. People waste brain space over, you know, what they're going to wear. Like, even if you do want to dress fashionable, organize your wardrobe and know what you're wearing before the day, like, so that you're not getting up and wasting a whole heap of time thinking, what will I wear today? Because that's taking up brain space, as you said. Or what will I have for lunch? Or what will I have for breakfast? I have the same breakfast and same lunch just about every single day, because I don't want to waste my brain space of thinking about something else. I would prefer just to get it done and keep moving through what I need to get done in my day.
Yeah. And the other thing that's worked well for me too, which saves energy and thinking, is and time, is I very much, for the last 2 years, done intermittent eating. They call it intermittent fasting. It's not fasting. It's just 16/8. In other words, I don't eat until about lunchtime. And all I have is black coffee, 2 or 3 of those. I have some lemon mineral water, which I make myself. But I don't have to think about breakfast. It's awesome. It's just keeps it so simple. And so I can focus on things that matter. And it's just little things. But this is what works for me. It doesn't mean it'll work for someone else. So what we're all going to work out the way to live life that, one, gives you joy. I had a conversation with a friend recently and said, I don't know what joy is. And that blew me away. And it sounds like you're doing what you enjoy, doing what you're good at, which I think is really, really important, because life's too short to do what you hate.
That's the thing. Yeah. And I think, you know, thinking back to when I first started, even like the T-shirt side hustle, like I was at that point the same as it sounds like your friends at, where I would actually Google search how to be happy. Like there's so many people out there who are in this space of just not feeling that happiness in what they do. Yeah. And it's, you know, you feel like you're just a zombie going through all of the motions. And you might have an amazing job. I had a beautiful job. I had beautiful people. I can't complain about any of the gifts that I had in my life, but it's just, if, you know, finding that joy, finding what you love, it brings out a different level. And it's when you are working from that joy and you are working from that happiness, like it's easy. It doesn't feel like work. It feels easy. It feels light. You sort of wake up and go, oh, people pay me for this. Like, I can't believe I just get paid to be the easiest version of me, because it comes easily. Yeah. That's what you want. When you're starting to force something and it doesn't feel right, then it's hard. Yeah.
And you've brought up a word which, 2 words which are actually very, very important: force and flow. What I've learned is that anything I've tried to force in my life and in business usually turns to shit. It's when you discover flow, and it's really hard sometimes. And flow comes out of a lot of places, but essentially out of flow comes joy as well. It generally comes down to it's the intersection of both what you're good at plus what you've learned along the way, and leaning into that. And that's, for me, has been a big learning over the last 10, 12 years, is I'm not going to force anything anymore. You actually lean into what you are good at. You listen to messages along the way, and you design a life for you, and I think, and a business for yourself. That's a big lesson for me in terms of force versus flow. It's really important to, if you listen to yourself and listen to your heart, quite often it'll just show up. So I had an experience recently where that term came up one morning after meditating that said, I surrender, and a challenge I was facing just went away. I've never, ever had that before. And it just came out of the subconscious. It's life's interesting trying to work it out, because we're wired very much by parents and society. So you've got to work out how you make it work for you. And it doesn't mean you need to be selfish. You just need to be live life how you're meant to be, because we are all meant to live a certain life. We've just got to discover it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes it's about quieting some of that noise, isn't it? And just
it is. And it sounds like you've done that, which is, amongst all that noise and chaos that you've had, and amongst challenges such as a marriage breakup. Sounds like you're been listening to yourself and have designed a life and a business for you and for the family as well. So that's fantastic. So just to wrap it up, Paula, is anything you'd like to say as tips to any coaches out there, business coaches or just coaches? What are some of the top tips you've learned in starting and managing a coaching business?
Yeah. So I suppose if you're starting out and whether you're starting a coaching business or any business that you've got an idea for, the biggest thing that you've got to make is just that decision that that's what you're going to do. And as soon as you make that decision and it's final, it's not just a side hustle anymore. It's not just an idea. It's actually, this is what I'm going to move into in your head. You don't need to shout it from the rooftops or tell all your friends or anything like that. But if you make that decision, as soon as you make that decision and operate from that point of view, then things will shift. Like if you just decide that I'm going to have this business and now my job is the second thing. That's the side hustle. But still turn up to your job, like fully turn up and still be grateful for it, because otherwise that will block the decision that you've made. But making the decision is such a key point and such a big part of how I got to where I am now. I just made the decision to step forward over and over again. And I never thought I would be here, went in a few different directions before, right? And I didn't think I would be here. So just following that. And if you are in business and you've already built the business to a certain level and you are tired and you're thinking, I need more team or I need to grow this, but I don't know how to because I've got so much to do and I don't have the time to even think, then look at what you're doing and start to look at what can you do differently to free up some more time. And sometimes that means slowing down to go faster. Sometimes that means setting up some infrastructure. Sometimes that means setting up some processes and systems. Sometimes that means getting a little bit of help in the business or in the family. But looking at how can you free up some time to give yourself the space to actually think, because that thinking time is going to be really important for the ideas that you get to grow your business.
Yeah. In other words, you've touched on something which is really important. In other words, the importance in a business of processes and systems.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And a lot of business owners typically are more creative thinkers, they entrepreneurs, and the detail and the processes and systems are something that they just don't want to look at, don't want to touch. But you've just said that that's one of the most important things you can do to free you up to scale.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I hear it all the time, it's easier if I just do it myself, or they stuffed it up, so I just had to go and fix it, or, but that's one thing that I think was drilled into me just, from the very beginning of my career, that we always had systems and processes and we always followed them. So I just thought that everyone had that when I got into business. And when I started working with people, I realized that they don't, and the importance. And so I had to come up with lots of easy ways for people to set up their systems and processes. And there's lots of different ways that you can do it. But the easiest way you can do it too nowadays is just to do a little recorded video and even have that saved for your team, or have that saved for the next time that you do it, so that at least you're building up a library of, this is the standard way that we do and this thing, or this is a standard way that we handle this problem.
Yeah, I think the technology now allows us to actually capture systems and processes, and we can do it in a visual way and using a recorded video. I remember one of my team decided to leave after about being 6 or 7 years with me, and he actually spent 2 weeks before he left recording what he did so the next person could take it over, and it's just fantastic. So we've got the tech to help us do the scale, and now we've got AI leaning into helping us do that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, the importance of systems and processes in a business, it will save your life and also quite often help you scale your business as well. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Paula, thank you very much for your insights and sharing your passion for what you do, and some of the stories along the way, including the Amazon T-shirt business. I think that was actually a lovely cool aside, because a lot of people know, well, and Amazon's great for people who wanted to start a side hustle.
Absolutely. So easy.
Yeah, it is. So it's great. So Paula, thank you very much for sharing your stories, and And you started a business and you're still smiling. That's great. So that's what we want to help people do. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff.